This video is a little late because Tuesday night I realized my entire subject was going to go into a bunch of studies I wasn't intending to teach or to talk about at this point in time. But it worked so perfectly with sticks that I decided I'm going to have to show this to you. And I'm sorry, this is going to be very kind of boring and stuff, but this is the best I can do. You know, you want to understand the subject. This is the studies I've done on it, but they're not about video games. They weren't meant to be about video games. What I expected was, to talk about religion and nationalism and how we kind of view them sometimes in a very negative light. And by the way, these two people have something in common. They were both born in Argentina. To the left is Eva Perón, who was a major political power or political influence in Argentina in the 50s through 70s. She was overthrown by the military, and they occupied Argentina while my dad was living there. It's one of the reasons why he doesn't live there anymore. And to your right is an Argentine-born Catholic priest who eventually became the Pope. It's actually really fun because when I wrote in Il Papa, I immediately found the Pope. I was just like, oh, that's pretty sweet. Anyway, this is what I expected. I expected to tell you, there are things that we view and we say, okay, they're like the stick. We add our own imagination to it, but they themselves are not evil. Religion is not evil. Nationalism is not evil. However, nationalism can do evil things, or people can take nationalism and use it for evil. In the same way, people can take religion and use it for evil. You can take anything and use it for evil. That doesn't mean it in of itself is evil. So you take video games. Are video games inherently evil? No. But if we were being honest, some games are evil, and there are people who are going, well, why are you playing this game? It's quite evil. And that gets into the subject a lot more than what we were expecting. And while I was thinking about this, I finally realized I had to talk about this other subject that I study and has nothing to do with video games, or only tangentially to do with video games, but I was trying not to get onto this subject as soon. I'm so sorry, but we got to talk about assholes. Assholes are not what you're thinking of. I didn't just choose this word up at random. It is actually a academic term. It means the groups of people who choose to do evil things. And, we were trying to come up with a term, and frankly, a litany of swear words were all came up, and then finally we realized there was this great episode of Red Dwarf. It's a British TV show, and there was a line from a character who said, if you want to treat him really, really, really nice, and this is when you're being super proper and stuff, you call him asshole. So, we said, okay, they're going to be called assholes from now on. And so to your left, you have ISIS. This is a terrorist group that has destroyed whole cities, literally destroyed whole cities, and they've taken famous ancient artifacts and stuff and destroyed them. Whole cities, ancient cities that people would go and visit and study and understand the Middle East have been destroyed by these people. They are terrible. And, they come at it from a very specific point of view on why they do it and why they do it. In case you're wondering, I've done tons of studies, but the problem is I don't know how to properly present my studies, and it's been kind of driving me nuts, because I know for a fact that the best way to do this is through a video, but I don't quite understand how to do that correctly just yet. I've tried writing papers, and it just didn't work. And I can show you a couple of links to various papers, and you will find that I couldn't quite get it. And on your right, you'll have Dylan Klebold, and what's his bucket? Oh, the other kid. And these are the Columbine shooters. They look so normal, don't they? These were the guys who dressed in masks, ran into their school, and started shooting people. They were the start of the major push on, running into school and shooting people. And they were nothing like what you imagined them to be. They were popular. They had friends. They went to prom. When I was looking up pictures, I actually saw them at prom with their dates. They had friends. They had enemies. They were average. They were normal. One of them may have been a psychopath, but that was done by people who wanted to look for a psychopath. And that gets into this whole subject of, why did they do this? And through my studies, I've found that they just had this thought enter into their mind in the same way that anybody has, just this random thought, and they just continued to pursue it. And since nobody stopped them, they just continued going forward until they were in a school shooting it up and not understanding how they got from point A to point B. And when everybody asks, well, why did they do that? The answer is they didn't expect to get it that far. The people who have been captured alive have been like, why didn't you stop me? I don't understand. I thought it was obvious. I thought you were watching me a lot more. I mean, everybody says that you're watching and you're not. And by the way, just because they choose kind of the same way to do things doesn't mean that shooters are the same as terrorist groups. Terrorist groups are recruited. It is a recruitment system in the same way that gangs are formed. But shooters, for the most part, are just random people who go, yeah, I should do this. And yes, that is one of the creepiest things you'll ever learn in your entire life, because there isn't a lot you can do to stop it. Oh, hey, Dave. Man, I am totally going to look up this thing on Cute War. I am going to need it. This is a very, very depressing subject right here. Study of evil people and why they did evil things. And there are tons and tons of research, and nobody knows really how to do it. So, I wrote down and I wrote some equations on what to do. This is the major equation. This is, to see if to kind of guess on why people do things. It's not accurate right now because we need to do more studies, and this is just the beginning of the research. I'm going to try to publish this kind of stuff, but once again, I don't know how to write that paper, and I don't know how to properly present it, because this is just one of those insane subjects, and just getting into it is depressing. But the equation is, let's choose some random subject, and you will have a connection to this subject, and you'll have a sense of power. That doesn't mean that you have power over the subject, but that you have power within the subject. Like, let's say a historian loves history, he feels a connection with history, and he feels a power within the knowledge of history that he has. But there's also, a disconnect he has from history. For instance, I love World War I history, but I've never been through World War I. And, what should I do about that? Well, there is an acceptance of this. And by accepting it, I go, okay, I never lived in 1913, through 1918, but I can accept that I'm never going to understand that, and you know what? I'm okay with it. And what we do is each one of these letters is going to be scaled from 1 to a number, and it's the same number, so that they all have the potential to equalize and reach a 1. And 1 is, you like it, and it's safe. Anything past 1, it's fairly okay. You might really like it. If you're at a 2 or a 3, you're really into that subject, and you might go to blows with people. But anything past that, if you get into the 20s, you can't actually keep your thoughts correctly within that range, and it will actually cause you to your brain will actually shut down. It will take up more consciousness points than you have to use that kind of thing, so it will be very short. That's why we have these very short memories of just these very fond things. Is we're going through something and we get a 5 or we get a 6 from this equation, and we go, oh man, that was great, and it just kind of stays in your mind, that memory, that emotion. And it's just a moment, because that's as much as your brain can handle. If you go any further, your brain is like, that's taking up too much energy for me. And because of this, we often have these connections with things, and we use our memories and we use our emotions towards it. And that's why many things that we liked as kids, we still like today, because as a kid, you didn't have all the controls over your emotions that you have now. So this is a very basic equation. I wrote 2 other equations, and I'm probably going to write a bunch of more. And they're not predictive just yet. We need to do a lot more studies and stuff like that. Like I said, this is such an insane subject. But when I was looking at it, I realized I could also apply it to normal stuff. And here, let me show you. Another way you can use that same equation is instead of a disconnect, you can say connection to another subject. So instead of a CN, it's an O. Yay. And so, you have my subject, the power I have over the subject, the feeling I have over the subject, over this other subject, and, how I feel about it and my acceptance of that. And if I feel like this subject, the other subject, is actually more important than the main subject, I will actually have, a percentage, or, 0.001 on my subject. But let's say I feel more stronger towards my subject than the other will kind of not be as important to me, and can even take on a negative point of view in my mind. Let's take that for, say, nationalism. My subject, I love the pro-macaroni blue team. And the pro-macaroni blue team is so important to me that I view it in very high numbers, 1 or a 2, and I'm just like, yeah. But then over the other team, same subject, I love this subject, but they are the other team, and you know what? I don't like them as much. I have not given them as much emotional character. And you know what? I don't accept this. I don't accept that they exist. Only my team should exist, and they should always win. And because of that, we have this distance between each other. And it's fascinating because, remember those bomb circles we made? The further you go into the bomb circle, or the bomb chart, the further away you get from the other subject. So it could be this distance, but because you're dead center in something, you're going to have difficulties connecting with that other subject. For instance, cosplay. There are people who cosplay so much that they simply cannot dress in normal clothing. They feel weird when they do it. And there are people who dress in normal clothing and they see cosplayers and they're like, what is the matter with them? Why are they doing this? They're obviously weirdos. And really, it's just the disconnect they have and their acceptance of it. They go, well, normal clothes are normal, and they're normal because some cultural reason why. And so I have a great importance in my mind for the way these clothes should look. And these other people are dressed differently from me, and I don't accept it. And so you can kind of hear that from people as they comment about cosplay or about anything else. So as we get into video games, we can see the same connection. I'm going to use the exact same equation to show you things, and I'm actually going to go into another equation, and it's entirely about flow. And I'm going to explain the points, the mental points. That's really a difficult subject to get into, but we'll talk about it a little bit in the next video. And after that, honestly, I don't know where we're going to go. I was going to talk about, why do we have gatherings? Why do we have conventions? And then the equation thing came up, and I'm like, I don't know. Actually, you know what? We're going to do conventions, and we're going to talk about why do people go to conventions, and we're going to use the equations and to see how it works within ourselves. So there we go. We are we are using equations that I never meant to talk about video games with about video games, and this is going to be a lot of fun. So see you in next video, and next week is going to be really interesting. So catch you all later.